You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone, and hopefully this is a great new year for recovery and people who need treatment. My guest today is Linda Hurley from Kodak. Welcome, Linda, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, Linda, we have some exciting news to tell the folks that are watching the TV about your new place of residency for Kodak. So why don't we tell everybody where it is and what your plans are?
Okay. It's at 45 Royal Little Drive off of Branch Ave in Providence. It's a wonderful site, and it is ideally constructed to allow us to provide fully integrated care for people. We're going to have mental health treatment, psychiatric care, primary care, specialty care for infectious disease and reproductive health, and of course, treatment for substance use disorders and opioid use disorders, as well as plenty of space to have a peer recovery center and also be able to bring in services that people need. The Department of Labor and Training has committed to come, and all entitlements that anybody would need, through social services.
You know, I think it's a fabulous idea to bring people into one facility, and it's like a one-stop shop.
It is.
And you can also get, possibly, if you're willing, a job on the way out. You get your treatment, you get your primary care, you get peer recovery, and your last stop is Department of Labor and Training.
Exactly.
What made you think of doing something like this?
It's actually evidence-based at this point, John. We're not doing it in Rhode Island. We're halfway doing it, or 3/4 of the way doing it. But it's really, the stars have to align. You have to have the exact correct space with the timing that people can come to you to provide services, so that the individuals coming to us for care can get those services, and they happen to align. But it is evidence-based care, and there's science out there that says this is what happens. Because even if we ask me to go across the hall from a doctor's office to a dentist's office, I may or may not make it to the dentist's office depending upon how I'm feeling leaving,
Right.
leaving the doctor's office. So it's human nature. But when it's all under the same roof and there's someone there to walk you to that next door, it's astronomical.
So that leads me to another question. We in Rhode Island probably going to break another record this year.
We are.
With overdoses.
Yep.
Things that we're doing yearly, repetitively, don't seem to be working. How do we turn the corner and get more people help? I know you have a beautiful van, mobile home, that you're going to talk about going into the communities.
Yeah.
But I think that's key. It's key because the folks that we help, a lot of them don't have transportation. A lot of them would rather walk to the mobile home rather than get on a bus, 2 or 3 buses to get to where you need to be. So tell my viewers about the new mobile van that you right now have on the road.
Right. Well, we chose to apply for dollars. We received them, and we got our first mobile unit this summer, medical mobile unit. And we chose to do that because, as you said, John, it appears with the numbers of deaths that are occurring that what we're doing isn't working. What we're doing is working. We just haven't reached far enough into the community. So when we've invested in treatment, treatment works. These overdose deaths aren't happening with people in treatment. And these overdose deaths aren't happening anymore for the people that are leaving the correctional facilities. They're not. It's remarkably decreased. It was the highest number of deaths that we saw in overdose in 2014-15. So we've done the right thing. We just have to do more of the next right thing. And the next right thing is reaching into those that don't have access. So that's when we said, you know, we need a mobile unit. So we worked with Ben Lessing at the Community Care Alliance, and because they have a large number of homeless in there in Woonsocket, and there's a corresponding amount of opioid use disorder and other horrible comorbidities. So we're parked right there in their parking lot. We come up every morning, and then in the afternoons we go to various sites across the community wherever there's been what we refer to in Rhode Island as a hot spot, where there's been lethal amounts of
overdose,
contaminated product on the street. And I think that, you know, that's really important. So we need to, and it's not just getting to the people that have trouble with transportation, it's the individuals for whom our medical system has failed and they don't have faith in it, so they don't come to us for health. We need to come to them mobily and in a culturally, I don't want to say, it needs to be, the culture needs to be shared, language needs to be shared, skin color needs to be shared. You know, it's where individuals feel that they've had barriers to care. So we go to them, and we go to them with people that are able to reach them culturally.
Do you think the mobile unit is the missing link to getting to these folks that are far-reaching, and now you can actually reach them with a mobile unit?
Absolutely.
Now, one mobile unit's not going to do it.
No.
I hate to tell you, but it's not going to do it.
We already
we
know.
need multiple units.
Yeah, we have applications in for 2 more units.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll get them. They're grant applications. That's how we get the dollars. And we were very fortunate. So far, we've been funded primarily by private funders and by the federal government. We haven't received a great deal of Rhode Island dollars. But we're working on it. We're working on it. And again, I want to say that the key is, you know, far-reaching geographically, but demographically, we need to go into urban spots where people aren't accessing care either because they've lost faith in the ability of our institutionalized medical systems. So we need to go to them in a way that they can understand.
You know, one of the things that I share with people is the issue of doctors prescribing opioids, that the DEA has gone way to the left and now has given people the opportunity to go to the street to get their medicines if they're in pain. Do you see that changing? Are you hearing that? Does your clientele complain about that? My doctor's not giving me enough, so I got to go on the street. I'm playing Russian roulette with what they're giving me on the street because I don't know what's in it. Are you hearing that from your patients?
We've been hearing that for a long, long time.
Long time.
Yeah, that's, and especially now because of the lethality of the medicines with all of the adulterants, not just fentanyl, but there's many. People don't want to die. They want to use, but they don't want to die.
I want to talk more about that when we come back to harm reduction stuff, and I want your opinion on that in a minute. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. My guest today is Miss Linda Hurley, and she is the Executive Director, President, CEO of Kodak. That was a long title. Welcome.
Well, thank you,
and
John.
thank you, and thank you for being a sponsor of the show too.
You
It's
bet.
very much appreciated. So we were talking earlier about these mobile units. Can you give me a price on a mobile unit?
Well, the one that we have that's pretty much state of the art was a little over $300,000.
And we'd like to get 2 more, maybe 3. So if I do the math, which I'm not a mathematician, so it's about $1 million.
Yeah.
And we have a $600 million surplus in the state, and I'm hoping that the Senate President and the Speaker are listening, because it's very much needed. In my estimation, we have to stop. We have to stop. Too many people are losing their lives. We have to do more ways to help our folks. We have to make sure we give them access to care, which is a key.
And no matter what that access issue is, we need to address those access issues, because right now those individuals are the ones that are dying.
And we have to make sure we have to meet them when they're ready to go into treatment. We can't be saying to them, listen, can you wait 2 more days until I get a bed? That's unconscious. I mean, I know the system is in turmoil right now because of lack of staffing, rates that haven't been changed in 15, 20 years. I don't know how people can run their business. I don't know how you can run Kodak with rates of 20 years ago, other than getting in the hole.
Well, and again, as I said earlier, we write all the time for grant money, but there's the problem about that is sustainability. You
Right.
know, it's difficult to go grant to grant. It's very difficult to pull services when you no longer have money. It's a difficult.
It's a disservice.
Job. It is a disservice.
If you have to pull programs from people who, who have, got their life in a little bit of a turmoil because of opioids. When I first came on board, I'll never forget this, when you said to me, come and stay in the parking lot at 5 o'clock in the morning and see the clientele. I mean, I was flabbergasted. There's a lot of high-profile individuals who are in recovery, and I get that every day when I meet people. Oh, by the way, I wanted to let you know I've been clean for 20 years. I've been clean for 30 years. And I look at them, I'm like, wow, I would have never guessed. Someone of your stature, CEOs, presidents, judges, lawyers, doctors, dentists, and people don't realize that, and because I think too it's the nature of our business, meaning that the stigma of our business, I think it has to do with going to your classes, going to your doctor, going to a multitude of different places, and have to bare your soul, basically. I had a guy over the weekend call me and said I had to put his daughter into treatment. And he said to me, John, you don't know this, but I've been clean for 20 some odd years. He said, whatever I can do to help your cause, I'd be happy to do that. Now, I never met the man before. He lived in my district and lived in Smithfield. I'd never met him before. But for someone to come out and say that, we need more of that. And I'll just tell you another quick story. I did a training for a union a week ago Monday. 138 individuals, apprentices. And there was about 5 apprentices in that room that have been clean for a number of years. And one was a boss. And he got up in front of the group, and he had tears in his eyes. But also, probably 100 out of the 138 individuals had tears in their eyes too, listening to that story. Because it's okay to tell someone you're going to tell somebody else to get help. You're not a rat, you're not a squeal cat. They're your co-workers. If they fail, you fail. And people, sometimes they don't get that. To, if you see something, say something. So I mean, it's our industry right now is at the pinnacle of tipping over. You know, so many people have lost their lives for the grace of God, for nothing other than to get high. And the stuff that's on the street now, that's coming into this country from certain places abroad, coming into places where we should be putting up walls, and it's coming in by the boatloads. And for every molecule that's changed, it's a different effect to individuals.
Mm-hmm.
The Narcan that we have today may not be the Narcan that we use tomorrow, because the Narcan we have today may not be able to save the individuals of tomorrow. And people have to realize that. If you're out of your medication, don't go to the street, because it's almost an automatic death sentence when you go and get your medication from the street. I don't know how we have to change that pendulum to bring it back to the middle, so people who are in pain, cancer patients, MS patients, and a multitude of other people get the right medication to help their pain. A lot of times too, we're going to see now a boatload of suicides coming. I can see it coming, because you hear and you see things on Facebook, people who are desperate to take medications so they don't have to deal with the pain. I saw it with my own father when he was dying at the hospital. Yeah. They wouldn't give him enough medication. That's not normal.
Well, they're afraid, and the fear is understandable. At the same time, we have this rising population or group of people like me that are aging. And part of aging is pain.
Right.
So we're having a whole new group of people with brand new variables in their lives that are going to need new science, or existing science that hasn't been explored. Is more like what it is.
You say that so eloquently, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. It's really important to do. It's actually one of my passions, is working with the elderly or the aging folks, because they're so vulnerable, so at risk, and doctors do not ordinarily have geriatric expertise, just as they don't ordinarily have expertise in treating opioid.
You're so right. We're going to take a break. Talk about more when we come back.
Thanks.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. I'm here with my good friend, Linda Hurley from Kodak, and we'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Linda Hurley is my guest today from Kodak, and we've been talking about Linda's new facility, a one-stop shop. We've been talking about a lot of different things, the mobile units.
Yes.
We like the state to cough up some more money so we can get a couple more, put it on the roads, and let them meet the people where they're at. So Linda, thank you for coming on, and thank you for being a sponsor. I want you to give my viewers your website if they're looking for treatment, and I want you to give them the phone number of your facility.
Okay. So the website is easy. It's Kodak, C-O-D-A-C, at kodakinc.org. Easy to remember, and it's checked at least 2 or 3 times a day. C-O-D-A-C, Kodak, at kodakinc.org. The telephone number is 401-275-5037.
That was easy for you to say. But
I was going to give my cell phone number. So sorry.
But I wanted to thank you for coming on today, and thank you for what you do. I'm sure there's a lot of patients. And how many patients do you serve right now?
A little over 5,000.
5,000 patients. And you're one of the biggest in the state, or the biggest in the state. Very innovative, thinking outside the box, in the prisons in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So you have your work cut out for you. saving lives is what Linda Hurley's all about, and Kodak. So thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me, John.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll see you next week. And if you need Linda Hurley, give her a call.
Just call.